Hi. Oh, here we go.
Okay, now we are live, and I am going to hop onto my channel, and we are going to talk about cuties some more. Because I think cuties is worth talking about. Um,
Yeah. Am I still muted? Hang on. Oh, I'm not
no,
muted. No, sorry. Yeah, this is the we talked about it.
I could hear you.
Oh, right, great. Yeah, this is something we talked about on I think the first time we did a live stream together. This was before the film had actually been released. Now, this is it's a French. It's actually produced by a French team. And I'm breaking a rule here, Rin, because I do movie reviews as well on my channel, and I always say to people, you don't review a film without seeing it. And I never read reviews until I've seen the film. But I am going to make an exception in this case, and I hope people will understand why. But I watched a couple of clips, and I decided then I really don't want to watch it, because I can't see how I take anything out of context from just watching those clips. I was horrified by it, quite frankly. I don't gross out easily. I was a hospital porter for 23 years, but I saw young girls being dressed in clothing and acting in a sexualized manner as an adult woman would.
Yeah, and that is a huge problem. Like, I was watching like a YouTube video by Elvis something, like Elvis the Alien. And what I saw was really, really creepy because I saw like an 11-year-old girl with her panties off taking a photo of her vagina. And it's like, okay, that is like absolutely creepy and disturbing.
It is totally. I mean, the according to the promotional material. Oh, by the way, hello, Professor Platypus. Thanks for dropping by and watching. The premise of this film is it is essentially satirical. It's kind of an indictment of um, the P word. We're going to some minor attracted persons and personality, shall we say, map. I mean, I know we can't. If we use the P word, it might affect this video because YouTube is so censorious. But the map sort of mentality, the minor attracted persons and minor attraction, basically. But we, I watched like a couple of reviews. I watched Styx Hexenhammer talking about it. You sent me some links as well to other people who did reviews of it, who did watch the film. People whose opinions I do trust and I uphold and I regard as very, very wise. People like Sargon of Akkad. And again, I didn't go as far as to watch it myself, and I don't want to. But they basically made an interesting point. If this is some kind of satire or some kind of criticism, why doesn't it take the form that a satire normally would? And you put it very well. You made a very interesting analogy to do with lynching. So what is it you said?
Okay, this would be like, okay, it would be like if a film crew, took some rope and decided to, like, unironically, like, to literally lynch, like, 10 black people for the making of a film, and for the black people to, like, literally die, like, even like outside of the film, like, for them to be dead as the doornail, and be like, well, this movie is, speaking out against the lynching, like, but it's like, did you need to lynch black people to speak out against lynching? I mean, it's really, really unnecessary, and it really, like, hurts your points. Like, it hurts your points when you're doing it yourself. I mean, you could, like, make the points without, like, doing it yourself. It's kind of like, like when I was in, a few debates, discussions about this, and then they could have, like, switched to animation. That's what happened in Kill Bill. I believe it was Kill Bill Volume 2, where there were some murder scenes that involved a 9-year-old. So what they did is that they switched to animation. They could have used CGI, they could have did other things, as opposed to using, like, an actual 11-year-olds.
Yeah, I mean, yes, animation would have been a solution if they really want to hit hard. Because I mean, there's some pretty horrible animations. I mean, you sent me a link to the Kill Bill a Kill Bill clip, an anime one, where it shows a woman with a sniper's rifle shooting a man in a car, and it's very graphic. But you couldn't do that for real. It's not something you could ever do for real, and it's not. No one gets hurt, or seeing an actor or actress do something like that would not be as bad. I mean, it's like those. There's a few porn videos going around starring Lara Croft, and without describing them, they're the kind of videos you couldn't actually make for real. They're the sort of things you couldn't do without killing somebody. But because it's animation, it's kind of like it's just a picture, really. I know it's as horrible as some people might find it, and it's disgusting. It's not the same as having live action. And on the subject of satire and criticizing. Now, I understand satire. I like satire, and for example, there's several programs, and I think in Britain we're especially good at this. I don't know if you have. Well, you do have similar things in the United States. You have films like Wag the Dog, and there's some episodes of The Simpsons, like the cartoons, like The Simpsons and Family Guy, that are they take on a kind of black comedy element because they make a political point from very dark jokes. There was a TV series in Britain called A Very Small Problem, and it was about an imaginary society in which people who were under 5'3" in height were discriminated against. They were put into ghettos. So there's a kind of segregation, and people under 5'3" were put into they were treated as second-class citizens. And I watched it, and it was funny. What was funny about it was ridiculing, and it was ridiculing the whole concept of prejudice. And I understood that. I mean, the program unfortunately got a torrent of complaints because, unfortunately, I think a lot of viewers didn't understand that it was meant to be ironic. It was an ironic meme kind of thing, and they took it literally. They took it unironically. And I do understand that sometimes there is a fuzzy line between ironic and non-ironic. But in the case of what I've seen of Cuties, there's no fuzzy line. It's way over into the side where things get so ironic they're essentially promoting what they pretend to criticize.
Exactly. Do you know what it reminds me of? Like I've been telling a few people like what it reminds me of, and I'll just share it on the opera screen, share screen. It reminds me of this video about like banning porn. It's like this guy makes a video about ban porn, has a little fundraiser. I don't know if you could like read it, the fundraiser, but it's kind of like he starts an OnlyFans account to the end. It's kind of like, let me skip to it, skip. It's kind of like, wait a minute, hold on. It's like here, this is his OnlyFans account. This is him like taking his, shirt off, his city off. It's like, oh yeah, it's like a banned porn. And then, like the joke is that he's going to like do porn while he's saying, it's like, oh, but I'm trying to get porn banned.
Mm.
It's kind of like, and that what Cuties reminds me of. It reminds me of this video in particular. And it's like, oh, look, donate now for this fundraiser to ban porn. And he's like becoming a sex worker to ban porn. And it's like, that's what I thought about when I was looking at Cuties. It's kind of like you're doing the very thing you're complaining about.
Yeah, I'm a bit. What concerns me is that this seems to be acceptable now. This is kind of it's acceptable in a sense that it was produced in the first place. What this will do to Netflix's subscriptions, I don't know. I don't know how many people are going to cancel. I don't know how many people cancel. I hope a lot of people will cancel their subscriptions to Netflix, and then Netflix will realize, like the Gillette razor producers did, that when they do things like this, it just affects their business. So they'll stop then. But there's a lot of people have been defending it, and I mean, you've talked about this, and Sargon mentioned this. This is people. Sargon of Akkad mentioned Mike Stutchbury and what he's been tweeting about it, and he's been claiming, look, it's not supposed to be literally about the P word. It's not supposed to be promoting MAP, But then, of course, Sargon makes the points that we do. It's so over the top that it has to be. Do you see what I mean? And I do wonder about some figures on the left who are actually defending this. Um, they really, for some reason, they really want to die on this hill. And what's it going to do to their credibility?
And so, like, let me, I will show you how, Netflix is doing. I just need to find it on my Opera computer. But, can you please keep talking?
Okay, no problem. I mean, it's I've noticed this. I've noticed the Overton window of acceptability shifting quite a bit during the course of my life. When I was a little kid, there was very little swearing on TV. I mean, the films with swearing in were strictly for shown after 9 p.m., which is the watershed when adult material takes over. You may get the odd swear word, but there's so many great films in the past with no swearing in at all, and some of them are really, really good. In the golden age of Hollywood, literally all films were family orientated, all through the golden age of Hollywood. There were no R-rated films at all. But if you look at how the number of R-rated films has increased, it's almost like people build up a tolerance to some kind of level of violence or sex on TV and various other things, drug abuse and things like that. Is this? Oh, this is Netflix, right?
Yeah, it took me a while because I have like a gazillion tabs open. It was going down. It looks like it went back up again, but it actually just went down. Their prices did drop, but it's increased somewhere. Like, I guess either more pedophiles or I don't know, but it has been dropping there.
Yeah, I see it peaked in the end of August, and it's dropped down now. It's hard to. I think after a while, it'll take a while before the full statistics come out. I mean, whether there's a general downward trend in sales and subscriptions. I don't know how many people are going to cancel over this, but we won't know
A lot
probably
of
for a
people
while. We won't know.
a lot of people did cancel over this. A lot of people did cancel over this. Like, they are really just they're going down. I mean, they are going down, but it does look like they went up a bit. They went up a bit. They went down on some areas generally, but when it comes to media slash entertainment, they went up 3 points, 75%. But I don't know why it went back up. I don't know why. Worse, did some of the people canceled only to virtue signal? Like, was it for a
Mm.
show that they canceled? I don't know. But
It could be that it could be some maps like you say who deliberately subscribe because of this, or it could be like you say a virtue signaling thing, and after a while they reconsider and realize, yeah, but I do want to watch that Love Island. I can't watch it anywhere else, and they resubscribed. I mean, unfortunately, there is a lot of weakness among people generally, I've noticed, which is a sad thing. But I mean, my own view, I've actually taken a very dim view of Netflix for a long time. I've never subscribed. I made up my mind that I wouldn't a couple of years ago, actually, because when Cassie J's The Red Pill came out, it's a great movie, The Red Pill. It's a documentary about her. It's a kind of autobiographical. It's about her herself. And she was a feminist who decided to do a documentary on the MRM. So she got involved with men's rights activists and traveled around with them and interviewed them. And by the end of it, after spending a little while with them, she became like a sympathizer to the men's rights movement and made a film about it called The Red Pill. This film was banned. This film was banned on Netflix. Now, whatever your opinion of MRAs, I do wonder what you would think about the fact that a movie outlet specifically dropped this film from its schedule, and it said the reason it was doing it was because it promoted misogyny. So it does. Well, firstly, does it promote misogyny? I would say definitely not. Secondly, even if it did, is that a justification to stop people seeing it? People are paying money to see movies. They're paying this provider money so they can watch films. And this provider is censoring and filtering what kind of films they can see. And it's ironic, Rin, in the extreme, that they drop a film about the men's rights activists, which is pretty harmless, I think, certainly not misogynistic. And what do they put in its place? A film which promotes MAP. I mean, you couldn't make it up. the lack of the tolerance on one side, the extreme over tolerance on one side, and the lack of tolerance on the other. I mean, I'm baffled.
Oh, you cut off at the end. At least, like I couldn't
Oh,
catch
sorry.
you. Like you broke off at the extreme intolerance at one side, and then you cut off.
Oh, right. There's there's extreme tolerance on one side. In other words, tolerance for what I think is criminally obscene material, and on the other hand, you have complete intolerance for simply expressing an opinion about feminism. A woman expressing an opinion about feminism. Um, I can't really reconcile those two extremes.
Yeah, I mean, we are just living in crazy, crazy times. Like, I do like have a bunch of articles put up because I mean, oh, let me just click on this one. Like, oh, this is how I got like the title of my video. I mean, like, okay, first starts, let me say what I'm reading. I'm reading from Cuties, the extraordinary Netflix debut that's become the targets of a right-wing campaign. Right-wing, even though like Shoe on Head is to the left and she spoke out against it. I mean, and not only that, but on Reddit, there were many communists that spoke out against this film. But I mean, this is why I called it, entitled this video Centricide, I would get to it. Okay, the reason why I call this video like Centricide against Netflix Cuties is because of like down here it says Cuties is a film of the censor. And I'm like thinking, no, it's not, because like, like I'm a centrist and I hate the film, but I haven't seen it, but it's kind of like I've seen enough. I've seen enough to hate it. And it's like Cuties is a film of the censor and it's aesthetically of the censor. It's kind of like, oh yeah, this is a centrist film. And like I sort of joke on Twitter saying like, well, it's like if this film represents centrism, then call me an anti-centrist.
Yeah, a centricidal maniac.
Yeah, it's kind of like if this is the film of the censor, then I'm an anti-centrist. It's like abolish the censor. I mean, it's kind of, but I really doubt it because of how many downvotes the trailer has gotten. I mean, hold on, let me pull up like how many downvotes this thing has got.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see it. Actually, I should add my own thumb down to it. Actually.
Yeah, yeah, add your own thumbs down to it. Let me just find the video and just mm, let's see. I'm not gonna give it any watch time though. I'm just gonna have the video on pause because I refuse to give this thing any watch time. Okay, screen share. Okay, here we go. Look at how many dumps down it's got. It's got like nearly like 2 million. Almost similar. Hey, if you give it a thumbs down, you might be the 2 millionth one, and it has 50,000 likes. So most of the people dislike the film, and it's like I can't really blame them. I can't really blame them. It scored like a 3 in Rotten Tomatoes.
I
I
mean,
refuse to
yeah.
give it a thumbs down, but I mean, like, look at this. Like, what's with the close-ups between their legs? Why is that necessary? Why do you have a close up between her legs? How is this not child porn? Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. I probably should have said CP. How is this
Mm.
not CP or at least a softcore CP? I mean, what's with the close-ups between their legs? How is that even necessary?
It's really perverted, and I'm really encouraged. Actually, I mean the likes bar, the thumb bar, it's incredible. I mean, it's almost all, as Rin says. If you do the maths, 1.9 million versus 50,000 is incredible. And it's funny thing about Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know if you've seen this. They got 8% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got one of the lowest. I think it was 8. Where did I see that? It was about 8% on Rotten Tomatoes from the viewers, 90% from the damn critics, which says an awful lot, doesn't it?
Yeah,
The,
it really makes you think. Like, it really makes you think about the direction that this society is going. Like, and this is like another link that I have like on me. It's kind of like, because remember how the salon, there's that controversial article saying, I'm not a map. Like, I'm a map, but I'm not a monster. I won't say the P word that could hurt the channel, but I found this, he was a P word. Could not help. He was not a monster or a molester. The system destroyed him anyway. And like, I dropped down, but Jacob had never touched a child. He had contact whom he thought was a 10-year-old. Okay, he contacted a 10-year-old, in a chat room, and he made plans to meet up with her. Made plans to meet up with her. When he arrived, he discovered he had been corresponded with an undercover police officer, and he was arrested for luring a minor. Then he is a monster. He is a monster. He contacted whom he thought was a 10-year-old and made plans. What adult makes plans to meet up with a 10-year-old who goes, "Hey, I want to meet up with you"? Like, if I was talking to a 10-year-old, I wouldn't talk to a 10-year-old point blank, period. And he is planning to meet up with the kid, and it's like he got arrested. The FBI isn't going to arrest you for no reason. You would have to be, a monster. But the salon has, the P word. I cannot help. He was not a monster. The system destroyed him anyway. Like, well, he definitely is a monster.
if he's yes, I mean, this is something that we get in Britain, especially in Britain, and some in Ireland as well. I don't know if it's not so much in the United States, but there were actually, in this case, it was a police officer. There were actually amateur teams of P word hunters, map hunters, they call themselves, and they have lots of Facebook groups and things like that. And they do this. They set up decoy accounts pretending to be children, so that when the P or the map approaches them and starts talking to them, very often they talk in a lurid manner, and they post a lot of sexual material at this decoy. And when they arrange to meet the decoy, the map hunters then come out with a camera and they film this person. They call the police. They get the person arrested because it is an offence. I mean, they say this person, Jake or whatever his name was, he was not a P word, but obviously he had an attraction to minors, which is a mental illness. As I said the last time we spoke, if you are one of these P words and you've not touched a child, well, that's good, but you need to get yourself sorted out medically. So you need to go to the doctor. You need to doctor say to you've got this problem. The doctor will refer you to a psychiatrist. You need to get this. You need to find out why you have this unnatural urge before you actually do harm somebody. And in the case of this particular person, he did commit an offence. And well, obviously, maybe this is an opportunity for him now to get the help he needs, which is good. But certainly, he should not be allowed to wander the streets and be told, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with you. You've done nothing wrong." Yes, he has done something wrong, and it's a good job it was something. It was just this, and it wasn't a real child. If it was an undercover police officer, they're actually doing him a favour, these undercover coppers, by doing this. So I'm glad they caught him, and I hope he gets the treatment he needs before he's allowed back into public life.
Yeah, and like, it's like, again, like, there were so many people defending this on Twitter. So so I have this article up to show, the harm it caused. Like, I found this because it's Sargon of Akkad. Like, I was watching him discuss it, and I wanted to discuss this too. Natalie Portman opens up about experiencing sexual terrorism after starring in Leon at 13. And this is important to go over. So I intend to go over the whole article because it's really short anyway. So I'm going to read the whole entire article. Natalie Portman has spoken out about being sexualized early in her career, saying that she experienced sexual terrorism from the age of 13. Portman was speaking at the Los Angeles leg of the Women's March 2018 when she opened up about her experience after appearing in the first film Leon the Professional in 1994. During her speech, Portman revealed how her first fan mail involved a rape fantasy, which is really inappropriate, um, written by a man that's a local radio station launched a countdown to when she was legal to sleep with, and how critics wrote about her budding breasts in reviews. Now, when it comes to well, wait a minute, let's see. They launched the countdown when she's legal to sleep with. This also reminds me of like Mary Kate's and Ashley Olsen. People kind of did that with them too, where people were counting down when Mary Kate's and Ashley were old enough to sleep with. I remember when Mary Kate and Ashley were on Saturday Night Live, and they're like, "We're 18 now, we're 18 now," and you see like a bunch of grown men who look like they were in their 30s and 40s, giving a standing ovation, and it's kind of like, why are men in their 30s and 40s, getting a standing ovation to Mary Kate and Ashley saying that they're old enough to, they're 18 years old? It's kind of like, no wonder they became drug addicts. Like, I'm not surprised that both of them became drug addicts. I'll continue. I was so excited at 13 when the film was released and my work and my arts would have a human response. Portman said, I excitedly opened my first fan mail to read a rape fantasy that a man had written to me. A a countdown was started on my local radio show to my 18th birthday, euphemistically the age I would be legal to sleep with. Movie reviewers talked about my budding breasts in reviews. At 13 years old, the message from our culture was clear to me. Portman went to say, I felt the need to cover my body and to inhibit my expression and my work in order to send my own message to the world, that I'm someone worthy of safety and respect. The response to my expression, from small comments about my body to more threatening, deliberate statements, served to control my behavior through the environments of sexual terrorism. And then it's like, watch the video below. And then, this is where Scarlett Johansson talks. How could a person publicly stand by an organization that helps to provide support for victims of sexual assaults while privately preying on people who have no power? Johnson asked during her speech. I want my pen back, by the way. And it's like, this is for all of the people saying that you're not causing harm to these, young actresses by all of these close-ups between their legs. Like, I haven't seen it, Leon. I have no idea what it's about. But it's kind of like, from, listening to Sargon talk about it, it seems like it's a film similar to Cuties, but at the same time, all it did was, give her, fan mail about rape fantasies.
Yeah. It's good to see the Women's March actually covering a legitimate gripe for a change. The I've not seen the film, like you said. I mean, I didn't watch the film in 1994. I certainly wasn't interested in review literature at that time, so I didn't see the reviewers talking in that way about this young actress. If they were, then shame on them. That's a horrible thing. I mean, referring to her in a sexual manner, firstly describing her breasts, which were sort of growing at that age. They were small, but they were growing and things like that. And the countdown clock to when she's legal to sleep with. I mean, what are these people? That is it's unbelievable that such a thing could be tolerated. And of course, it's not like even if she was like, even if an adult was talking to her like this one-to-one, it would be bad enough. I mean, because I've known adults who talk like that. I've known adults talking like that to me when I was a teenager, and it really embarrassed me. But she's in the public eye. She's like 13 years old, a public figure. And as for the fan mail, I mean, the police should have dealt with that, because the post office can actually trace these things, and identify the person, and that really should have been dealt with by the police, because that's a horrific thing to send to any woman or man at any age, but to send it to a teenage girl is despicable. And I think this throws a new light on things like Cuties, because if this is really what the movie industry is like, right, if that's what it's like, and we've got other evidence as well. Remember Corey Feldman and Elijah Wood? These are two young actors who spoke out about their own sexual abuse at the hands of the movie industry when they were young actors. Um, it really. Then they bring out Cuties and they say, "Oh, it's only ironic." Even without this extra additional disgusting activities, it would still call that into question. But with it, I think we've got to look at the movie industry as, in a holistic way, as something that has institutional perversion. I mean, do you remember Milo talking about the pool parties he attended and things like that?
Yeah, I
It's
mean, like, look at how disgusting it is.
Oh my
Like,
god.
you can see the girl's panties off. She's 11 and her panties are off, and people are still defending it, even though you could clearly see her panties.
Yeah, I mean, as a father of a young girl, well, my girl is now 25, so she's grown up. But I find that enrages me to see something like that on a screen. It really does. I remember when my daughter was younger, and I would have done anything. I can't think of anything bad enough to do to anyone who would do that to my daughter and put her in front of a camera and make her do that. What effect is this having on the actresses who were in this film? These just
I
young girls.
I would think that it would be, like a really, really bad thing for the young actresses because, like, remember, like, what happens, like, Natalie Portman, like, Natalie Portman, she says that she, experienced, and I'll put it right back up on the screen right quick because I do think that it is important to know, like, what you're actually doing to these young girls, and it's viewed as sexual terrorism. It's like she's experiencing sexual terrorism at a young age. Like, these guys are sending her their rape fantasies about her, and she was doing arts. Like she was thinking that she's doing a good and she has arts, and it's like they don't really care. They do not really care, and it's like, I mean, do you want to see people defending this shit on Twitter?
No, certainly not. I mean, this is just it's unbelievable. What's unbelievable is that
The
that
thing is, there's some big names defending this on Twitter. That's the
oh
reason.
god,
Yeah, it's kind of like, like I had like a blue check mark. It's kind of like a,
yeah, and they're not going to get banned, are they?
yeah. That's the reason why, like, to uh address the people like actually defending this on Twitter, because it's like
Yeah, I
you
know.
have a blue check mark by your name.
Yeah, I mean, I got a red X. I'm the opposite, but a lot of them do. Like Mike Stutchbury, he said something about it. I'm like, he's one of my hate follows. Um, so I don't know, but I know that Sargon was addressing what he said, and I was really astonished. He gave out the usual line. He just said, "Look, it's not meant to be real. It's meant to be a satire and things like that." And like I said, we've already discussed how that is not an excuse. And the funny thing is, Mike Stutchbury is awfully. He comes down very hard on other things, like Netflix. We were talking about the double standards of Netflix earlier on. The left seem to be doubling down behind this whole thing, and again, they're not tackling what I think is the systemic real P word, which is going on within the system. I mean, they've been quite quiet on things like Epstein. I mean, they haven't really said much about Epstein, and certainly not as much as the centrists and the conservatives have. Um, they seem to be. They seem to have a worrying. What's the word? Like Mike. What's his name? Peter Tatchell, who I talked about earlier. He said that the law should be amended in cases of what he called consensual sex between people who were what he called borderline age groups. He's like something like maybe a year or 2 years under the age of consent, which I thought was horrible. I mean, the age of consent is there for a reason. I mean, I know very well there may be some people below the age of consent who are more mature than some people above it. I mean, I think there's some people maybe several decades above the age of consent who are not mature enough to deal with a sexual relationship. But still, you have to have some kind of legal protection for people who are definitely too young, and the age of consent gives it. The age of consent is in the right place, I believe, and it's there for a reason, and it should be respected and should be enforced. Is it true that I mean, first of all, let me just show you this, Rin. I've made a note here. I've got the actual figures on Cuties on Rotten Tomatoes. The tomatometer says here, this is the critics. This is the professional critics. 91%. They love it. Okay, audience score 11%. So that says a lot, doesn't it? It says the professional critics are backing up this film. And film critics are very left wing anyway. And it says QT Mignon, 11%. That is the people watching, 11%. Just check out the comments underneath the trailer here. It says here, different. These are Muslim people. I hate this. Christian people. I hate this. Buddhist people. I hate this. Hindu people. I hate this. Everyone. I hate this. It's the critics are all really, really scathing, every bit as much as the likes and dislikes. Yeah, he says, what drugs are people on who make decisions at Netflix? Yeah. I hear that Netflix might actually end up facing a criminal proceedings over this. I hope so.
Yeah, I heard that too. And like this is a blue check mark defending Netflix. By the way, if you're outraged by the sexualization of underage girls, I'll assume you're not a fan of the guy who bragged about barging in on underage beauty contests in the states of undress. And then, I'll skip that one. No, many people are disagreeing about what it is. Incidentally, anything can be pet baits, including, oh my goodness, including a video of kids on the beach in swimsuits. I mean, it all depends on like, are the kids like just running around in swimsuits in a movie, and it's like a really short parts of the movie. It's like, I mean, it's like it all depends because in Cuties, the little girl has her panties off.
Yeah, there's a slight difference, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a difference between, a girl with, her panties off, taking a photo of her vagina, and, a photo in a video of kids on a beach in swimsuits. It's kind of a lot like, I mean, unless they're doing these same gestures, like if they're making, slutty little, oh, I hope, YouTube doesn't hurt me for saying the S word, but unless they're making like, sexual faces and, it's like, unless they're like, having their legs spread, if they're just running on the beach, if they're running and doing volleyball, I don't think anybody would complain about that. But it's like the problem with Cuties is that the close-ups between their legs, the close-ups of between their legs.
Exactly. If you are a P word person, and you see young kids running around in swimsuits, yes, you may find that it titillating. Now, if you're not a P word, you won't. You see, you'll just see little kids. You'll see them as children running around having fun, as I would, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's not drawing attention to somebody else. I mean, to somebody because on a sexual basis. The difference with Cuties is it's specifically, unequivocally, in an objective level, emphasizes the sexuality of these children. And that person, it's interesting what that person said in their profile. I think they said they're pro reason. What was it they said, Ren? Pro reason.
Oh, I have more. I have more. Like we're really gonna go like deep really into this. It's like it's kind of like it's kind of like this guy says keep digging because they know that she's making a fool of herself, and this person. I mean, it's like it's a way to this is it's like a going off on it's like what is this? to do anything. It's like I see you also think that people dying of COVID-19 is no biggie. So unpredictable, Mutes. It's kind of like where is COVID-19 mentioned? She must have, like went into his profile and dig for that. I mean, that is completely unrelated. Like, how
Yeah.
pathetic are you? Like, you are conceding that you cannot really justify this, film because you had to go and dig through his profile for anything. She's clearly desperate.
Yeah, I mean, this is what's COVID-19 got to do with this, and also, like I said, if you're in an argument with someone and you have to get all channel pagey with them or profiley with them and go start looking underneath the argument to try and find ways of discrediting them, that is simply an ad hominem attack. It's interesting. She says she has Russian roots here. I mean, there's that book Lolita. It's Vladimir Nabokov, I think, is the author. Um, because that was a very controversial book that came out a long time ago. It was written by, it's again a Russian American, Vladimir Nabokov, and I think it's from 1955, but it is obviously a book about a map, a person who is a map. It's kind of like a map fantasy, and I've got nothing. I don't suppose I've got nothing against, for example, people. If people are maps and they want to express how they feel, that's good, because if there are maps out there, I want to know who they are, especially if I've got young kids. I'd like to know who they are. But I certainly wouldn't promote it. If I had a bookshop, I wouldn't want to stock it. I wouldn't want anything like that. Even though it's regarded as a classic novel, I wouldn't adapt it into a movie or anything like that.
Now
It's
this is where things get like really interesting. This guy says or operating the teams, and this guy's like a Biden supporter, so he's in agreement with Kathy Young. Kathy Young. So this is where things starts to take an interesting, turn. This guy says, "Who is arguing that cuties is bad, but child beauty pageants is okay? Strikes me as a rather rarefied lots." I mean, it's like this is good because it's kind of like there is so much what's about ism, like what's about ism, like what about Trump? It's kind of like who is actually arguing that cuties is bad, but child beauty pageants is okay. It's kind of like you get to point to specific people. Even then, that would be like what the gross generalization fallacy, or what's it, the fallacy of compartmentalization. I had to Google it later. And it's like there are tens of thousands of people on Twitter who really hates cuties, but love Trump, who creep into children and ran Miss Teen USA. So not that rare. Great. Use this for momentum to shut that down if you actually care beyond your tribal politics. This this is something quite beyond that's pettiness. Take out the pageants, use it for political football at your peril. I'm against those things. It's not hard for me because I'm not invested in supporting any creeps like Trump who spied on naked kids. Allegedly, this particular actual child um she on here didn't say that word, so I'm not gonna say it either. It's a feature-length film. If you don't care about this, it takes a colossal idiot to believe you really care about that. Like, and this is why, like, this is like a really good argument, and I really, really wanted to touch on this. Like, if you don't care about cuties, then it's hard to believe that you actually care about, beauty pageants. Like, because I would think that there would be a really strong overlap between people who care about cuties and people who want to ban beauty pageants. I would think there would be like a strong overlap. Like I am against cuties. I'm also against, child beauty pageants. So he has the points. Like, if you don't care about cuties, then it would take a colossal idiot to believe that you actually care about, beauty pageants.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Uh,
like, I don't like child beauty pageants. Actually, I do think there's something a bit creepy about them. I mean, I don't know about this Miss Teen USA. I've never heard of. I didn't know that President Trump was involved in it. If he was, I don't know exactly what it's involved. Does it involve children? How old are the children? or the teenagers involved? I mean, is there a legal? Are they above a certain age for legal purposes? I don't know.
Mm. I don't think the movie should be made. So I would at least respect Wild Greatsers who say that for saying that he doesn't think the movie should be made. At least he's trying to be consistent, even though Kathy Young is. Since also Trump spied on naked kids, and you support Trump, you're the one that's playing politics with this issue. You are the one being bring politics into, among others. I would have it's all brought down, but do insist do insist what somebody allegedly said holds the same weights as a feature-length film of actual thing that's what's bad. You are clearly balanced and wise. What's was said versus what's objectively and undeniably done.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting point. That's a good point that it is more whataboutism, and then they're bringing up, they're using very inflammatory language like Trump spied on naked children. Well, the thing is, if that implies, I don't know, it conjures up an image of a man, drilling a hole in the wall of the shower hut or something, and Pete looking through. If he was doing that, he would be arrested. That's being a peeping tom. He'd be arrested, and he'd have a criminal record, which would definitely have come up in his campaign when he was campaigning to be president. I don't remember this coming up in his campaign to be president, which indicates that it wasn't actually something criminal that he did. The only thing, I mean, lots of things were used to try and discredit President Trump in his campaign. One was that he supposedly engaged in sexual activity with an adult. He boasted about how he'd engaged in a sexual liaison with a woman, but he he groped a woman, which again, it depends on the context. It might have been during a consensual sexual activity. This was used to try and smear him, although in this case it was an adult. I mean, if you're going to get into whataboutism, I mean, you could say, well, what about you should say, these people probably voted for Hillary Clinton, a woman who was involved with all kinds of shady characters. For instance, Epstein, her own husband was on the Lolita Express and things like that. I mean, if
Oh,
that's down to,
actually, there was like photos that have been released of Bill Clinton naked with a minor. Like the photos have been leaked of Bill Clinton naked with a minor. And Epstein's Lolita Island that has just actually been leaked and released to the public, and you can actually perhaps find it like if you Google it, like Google Bill Clinton Epstein and go to like an image search, and you can see him naked with a minor.
I've
And I
seen that
think,
photo, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, the only photo of Trump that we've seen naked, I mean, there's Trump he's with clearly, if it's true, if it's even real, is him with, well, there's a man who looks a bit like Trump with what looks like an adult woman in Russia. But she's definitely an adult. And people make a lot of fuss about Trump going on Epstein's plane twice. Oh, Bill Clinton went on it 26 times. It's in the flight log. But Trump went on it twice. No, Trump didn't go to Epstein's island. Trump went between Florida and New York on 2 occasions on Epstein's plane, and on one of Epstein's private aircraft. And Epstein wasn't on the plane at the time. And basically, this was just Trump phoning up Epstein and saying, "Look, can you give me a lift to New York?" Basically, like you poorer people, it would be somebody's car, like borrowing somebody's car. They just said she just got a lift. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to make out, oh well, Cuties isn't so bad because A, B, and C. But they're not actually saying about why Cuties is good. They're just trying to make out that Cuties is no worse than anything else. But from what I've seen, Cuties is worse than these other things. It says allegedly about child sexual exploitation. He says, if you don't care about it, it takes a colossal idiot to believe you really care about it.
Yeah, I read about that, but this is like just the perfect. It's just like so perfect because there are people who like defend. I see people defending Cuties and whatnot. And it's kind of a lot like they want to get into arguments, they want to get into fights, and it's like he has like the perfect response. It would take, if you don't care about Cuties, then it would take a colossal idiot to believe that you care about, child
Mhm.
abuse actions. And I have more tweets, more tweets. I had to put it in my bookmarks because it's like, like Now, and I'm just gonna open like I'm gonna open this in two windows because I just want you to see like there are people on the left who are just defending this. I mean,
Hmm.
that article may have been baiting people, but even if the article was baiting people, some people like took a debate. It's like and they decided to just defend cuties. It's like
Hmm.
so I'm just going to open screen share and
Sure, it is like you said earlier when we were off air. This is not this. Why do they want to die on this hill? Why can't they just? It would be much better for in their position simply to say, "This is something we're not going to stand by," but they don't. You see, it's like and I'll say I know you want to say a few things about this, so I'll carry on in a minute.
okay. The more I am reading about cancel Netflix and cuties, the happier I feel that people don't remember the 1990s and the early 2000s. Patrice Wilson, Arc Music Factory, or haven't never been on a job site where people talked about what they would do to child actresses when they hit 18. Now that is terrible too. It's terrible that dirty old men are talking about what they would like to do to actresses when they turn 18. Like you do realize it's like Mary Kate and Ashley, they did that to them and they're drug addicts. What happened to them is bad. And it's kind of a lot like it's like he's like I just just go all the way down. He helped produce Rebecca Black and went to produce Other Girls Wanted to Be Stars. If the cuties is bad, imagine it's in real life. Just look up Jenna Rose, oh my god, on YouTube, and then don't tell at me because I didn't make it. I didn't mean to say yell. Creepy, right? No, this is where it gets really good. And we're gonna check out Jenna Rose, oh my god, because this is important. This is important. This is important to me to address this. This is really important. So you just got to let me finish this.
Sure, definitely. I've never heard of Jenna Rose, but you
Oh, we're
carry
going
on.
to look at it on YouTube. We are about to look at it on YouTube because I want you, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. So hold on. Just look up Jenna Rose, oh my god, on YouTube, and then don't yell at me because I didn't make kids. And Oreo says, yeah, I couldn't finish it. Lobster says, creepy, right? Now imagine a movie. This okay, like I want you to remember this because we're going to get back to this. And, now imagine a movie coming along to say, no, this is creepy, and this is why, and everybody wanted to cancel it. Oh, he forgot a comma. Now imagine a movie coming along saying, no, this is creepy, and here is why, and everybody wanted to cancel.
Oh, so he's
Cancel
defending
movie.
this guy. This guy Loza One is defending cuties. He's he's
Yeah,
he's sticking by this thing. Okay, no, cuties is just like, oh, it's ironic. It's exposing things.
yeah, it's like blah 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 blah. Everything you're complaining about is shown on hundreds of music videos on YouTube. It's like, God, I hope not.
Oh
I'm
God,
saying,
no,
yeah, God, I hope not. Saying
no.
silence on blah blah
You
blah.
see adults. You see adults, but not children. That's the difference.
Mhm.
Sure, in adverts and in music videos, there's a lot of pornography or pornographic type images, but it's adults in them.
And it's like, hey, Jenna Roast, oh my God, YouTube did come back with me. So we're going to look at it. We are going to look at it right now. And this is really important. This is really, really important. Um, you know, we're going to go because he keeps bringing it up. He keeps bringing it up. And let me screen share. It says this is more infuriating than Google Hangouts. But here we go. Look at the like or dislike ratio. Are you there? Hello?
Yeah, I am. Sorry, I was muted. This is Jenna Rose. I'm not seeing this. So this is a. Is this like who are these people dancing? Are they adults or kids? I mean, is this
Yeah,
like a?
12-year-olds.
Oh, cool. So what they look like? So what do they do in this video? I mean, you may not want to show it. Could you describe it?
They're dancing. I think they're just dancing. I don't want to play it in the
No.
background because copyrights.
Let me have a look. Let me just have a look at here. Hang on. Jenna Rose.
Uh, yeah, I have a screen share so you could type it out. But look at the like to dislike ratio. It's like look at the like to dislike ratio.
Oh, I see it now. Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
This is.
mean, like look at the comments. The comments like the person's like, guys, she was only 12 when
Let me
this
just
was
mute it. Hang
made.
on. I'm just muting it just so you don't get copyright on it. Oh bloody heck! This is. Oh, they're like pelvic thrusting and things. Like they're doing like this dirty dancing.
Yeah, she's 12 years old. She's 12 years old. And let me read the comments. In the
God.
comment section, it's like Melissa Clark says, guys, she was only 12 when this was made. Her and her family were lied to and scammed during the production of this video. She made a video on the subject this year, and it's definitely worth a watch. She has grown up to be very skilled and beautiful young woman. There's no need to hate on somebody for something that occurred when they were 12. So she was 12 and her family were lied to and scammed.
All right.
This is a 12-year-old, and
Yeah.
just look at the like to dislike ratio.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I'm looking. I'm not playing the music. Just I don't want to get your a copyright strike on a channel. But I look. The video shows these girls twerking, and she's wearing a costume with like angel's wings and a tutu with bare legs. And I'm not hating on her, but the people who even thought about putting a 12-year-old girl in something like this, there's something very wrong with that. There's something deeply disturbing about that, and it's almost like they want to try and make this normal. We talked about this in a previous video. It's almost like they want to get people used to it, and I'm glad there's so many dislikes on it because people are not getting used to it. People are clearly resisting it.
No, no. Like, look at the dislike ratio.
Mm.
1,000, 1,000 people liked it. Nearly 90,000 people disliked it. Now we're gonna go back to it. Louser one. Big brained take on it. Louser one. It's like open.
Mm.
Let me put him back on.
So this is the guy who was defending. This is the guy who was defending cuties.
Yeah, yeah,
The
it's like
one guy.
just look up Generous. Oh my God, the one that's bombarded with downvotes on YouTube. And then don't yell at me because I didn't make it laugh out loud. And it's like, yeah, I couldn't finish it. Creepy, right? Now imagine a movie coming out along saying, "No, this is creepy, and this is why. This is creepy. This is why," and everybody wanted to cancel it. Well, why on earth do you need cuties for that? In a video that's bombarded with downvotes.
Yeah.
It's not an acceptable form of our culture in any way, shape, or form. This is such a disingenuous take. Like he is, actually looking at a video bombarded with downvotes and saying that cuties is necessary to address that.
He's absolutely wrong. This completely different. I mean, there are programs I've seen, films I've seen, in which do that. They take child exploitation and they satirize it into like a drama. For example, I think there's an episode of Matlock, I think, the detective series, where he goes after a paedophile ring. The famous detective goes after a paedophile ring, and it's been led by a judge. And in a dramatic final scene, like they arrest him in court, but there's lots of scenes of children in it, and they're like wearing, and like the detective says, "How come you're wearing that?" And she's wearing a very revealing little girl wearing a very revealing dress, but it's not like she's not twerking and spreading her legs. She's just dressed in it, and this, you see, the irony of it is the viewer can imagine for themselves exactly what that girl is going to do in another scene. When the scene moves on to another character, they just show her in this dress, and you understand immediately. It doesn't have to be shoved in your face. You understand immediately what is being implied, and that I think is a suitable way to satirize child exploitation. You don't satirize child exploitation by making a child exploitation movie. So that Matlock episode actually handled it very well. This doesn't. So if he'd made that point about the Matlock episode, I'd agree with him. But he doesn't. He makes it about cuties.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like there's just like so many things wrong and creepy about the film. I mean, I did see, people on the left, calling this shit out. I mean, if there's anything that could give you hope for the left, I mean, let me screen share again. I did see people on the left calling it out. Hold on.
I'm glad some are. Yes.
Yeah, if this is what actually happens in the movie, why are some leftists pretending it's no big deal? I am very concerned. It's like she's calling out the left, she's in the left and she's not doing, the tribal politics things. She
Mm.
says, like, why are some leftists pretending it's no big deal? I'm very concerned because it's like, yeah, you should be concerned. Like, this should be a nonpartisan issue. It shouldn't be like a left or a right divide. It should be something that we could all agree on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad there are people on the left in politics who seem to have that kind of introspection and the ability to see their own kind of political tribe in a way as an outsider would. So they're able to assess it critically. I mean, our friend Lonely Wolf is an example of that, I think, and there's many others, which is a good sign. It's actually is a good sign. It's you see, on the left has a track record, I think, for turning a blind eye for this sort of thing. It is very often conservatives who will call these things out. For example, and again, it's a non-partisan issue when it comes to child sexual exploitation. I mean, for example, the Rotherham scandal here in Britain, which has now become an international scandal. This was covered up essentially by members of the Labour Party, which is the centre-left party here in Britain. I think it's to do with racial politics as well, because the perpetrators were mostly non-white and the victims were mostly white, and I think that influenced them. But there's lots of other issues where there's without the racial element, such as the church, scandals within the church to do with abuse. The Pope. I mean, it's not about children so much, but there are scandals to do with children in the church. But the Pope has just come out and admitted that there was a convent in which the nuns were being raped all the time by priests and things like that. It's very often it's the centrists and the conservatives who were the first to understand this and to call it out. And in this way, they make a lot of they gain a lot from the left in terms of, I think, moral standards. Quite frankly.
Yeah, like, and people want to defend this film. Look at how many adults are in the audience smiling. Like, what I did is that I put a red box on everything that looks like a smile or a fake booing. Like you can see this guy in the back smiling. You can see her and him clearly smiling. You can see the old lady clearly smiling. You can see, the blonde woman, like, even though she's booing and then she's, giving a dumb down, she is still smiling. Look at her cheekbones, look at her cheeks. She's clearly smiling. It's kind of a lot like you could boo, but if you're booing and looking at your cheekbones, you're smiling. I mean, if girls are touching themselves while dancing, you shouldn't be smiling at all.
No. I mean, is this a screening of Cuties?
This is a screenshot that I
Yeah.
took.
So they
Like I
watching the film? Are they watching Cuties?
No, they are watching, the erotic dancing where they're on
Oh right,
stage
yeah.
in that skimpy outfit, and then they are doing those erotic dance moves where they're spreading their legs and they're touching their crotch.
Yeah.
Look at the adults. Look at how many are smiling. She's smiling. He's smiling. The woman in the front row is smiling. The little old lady is smiling. The blonde woman doing the dumps down Chester is still smiling. You can see by
Mm.
her cheekbones that she's clearly enjoying it. The man in the back with his arms crossed, he's smiling. The Asian woman, it looks like a fake, she looks fake with a furrowed brow, but it's like I'm looking at her cheekbones and looking at her cheeks, it looks like she's smiling to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it does. I mean, these obviously I don't know what the point that they're trying to make in the film is, because there's nobody walking out. There's nobody. standing up for the children. I mean, I don't know what the plot of the film is. I mean, does it end happily? Do the children just carry on twerking and flashing, you know,
According to
flashing their twigs and
Sean,
berries, or what? I mean,
according to Seanhead, the main girl Amy, she goes to back to living a normal life. She finds a balance and she lives a normal life, and she decides to be like a normal 11-year-old girl, skipping rope.
because I mean, if the story has, if it ends with if there's a good moral to the ending, um, I would I would then say just take out the explicit imagery, and it might be a good film. Just remove the explicit imagery and make sure it has like a lesson, like an ending which like teaches the viewers something, and then it could become a good film.
Yeah, but it's like, unfortunately, they just felt the need to make everything really sexual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's a shame. I mean, I think it seems that there's an attempt to make trying to make people less disgusted by things like this, almost like to give us some kind of cultural and psychological immunity, which means that eventually it could become just the normal thing.
Yeah, they're trying to make it a normal day. And I mean, I would share, this other too, because I am glad that somebody on the left is speaking out against this. I mean, I know that, the famous politician, what's her name again? Chelsea Galbert.
Tulsi Gabbard, yeah,
Yeah, she spoke out.
she's one of the few Democrats I'd actually trust to tell me the time of day, quite frankly.
And you see this by, like, I am glad that there are some people who are not, playing politics, like Miss Miranda. Her profile says big brain leftist. It's like here says this isn't about political leanings at all. Even one of your viewers, e- e- uh, even one of your viewers defended the movie. The movie is disgusting, and I'm truly bothered that people are out here defending the exploitation of little children. I think she meant to say even if one. I think she left out if. I think she meant to say even if one of your viewers defended the movie. The movie is disgusting, and I'm truly bothered that people are out here defending the literal exploitation of little children.
Well done, Miss Miranda. I mean, that is actually what we want to hear from people. And she is big-brained if she actually has seen through all this. So well done her. And just wait for her to be cancelled now. You wouldn't believe, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if she's a target now for some abuse.
I mean, the Cuties received a lot of thumbs down. How many millions was it? Was it like
There's
2 million thumbs down?
almost 1.9 million thumbs down and 50,000 thumbs up. I mean, it's overwhelmingly thumbs down. I mean, this should tell people something. I mean, Netflix, look at your own trailers and look how people respond to them. I mean, do you want this? I mean, it's bad enough you ban things because they're politically incorrect, but now you put a film out which it's you can't just say people don't understand it. I mean, you're showing children in sexualized postures. There's no context, there's no storyline, there's no plot device I could think of that could justify that. And like I said, I've not seen the film. I don't intend to.
Yeah, me neither. And like she is like speaking out against Louser One, and it's like sure, okay, like let's scroll up a bit. Sure, and I don't think people are arguing that you have to watch it as much as they think that that's accusation is a bit much. An 11-year-old girl flashes her chest, and like Shunhead does say that you get to see like her naked boobs. You do see naked boobs of these children.
Really?
An
Oh God.
11-year-old girl flashes her chest, mimics sexual acts, zooms in on their private parts. How is that not pedophilic nature? Good on you,
Yes.
Miranda.
It's,
Good
it's,
on
it's
you, Miranda.
well done, well said. Exactly. It's all quite clear. When you get down to it's sometimes it's good to ask these simple questions. If you say this is not P word in nature, then what other? You just say, well, what else could it be then? If that's not P word, then what else is?
Yeah, it's like
What
mimic
would make it?
sexual acts, zooming on their private parts, flashes their chest, and it's true. Like, it's kind of like you actually would see their boobs. Like they would actually take their shirts off, and you get to see their bare naked boobs. Like you actually see them nude. Um,
Oh no, I think they just forget themselves. They don't have the restraint to realize they're being immoral. But anyway, carry on, Ren, because loads
no,
of ones. What's he saying?
now again, I'm not saying like the movie or even the detective is good, but at least take it for the it's not something else. And it's like, she says, I saw and I heard enough to formulate my own conclusions just because the director was like, but so I was trying to say pedophilia is bad, all while zooming in on a child's crotch. I'm going to make I'm going to make my opinion off what I see rather than what the director claims.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Because if you believe claims, if they just tell you what you're supposed to think because of what they say, I think that's the wrong way to go about it. You have to look at what they're actually presenting on the screen and think, well, what does this really mean? Not if they say it's something that it's not. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And if they tell you it's a chicken, do you just go, oh, but they say it's a chicken, so we have to believe it's a chicken? That's the deciding factor, what the director says. No, the deciding factor is what the viewer gets from the film. And I know that'll vary a lot depending on the viewer, but there are some images and some particular themes that are pretty unequivocal, and this, I think, is one of them. As you said, you're filming, you're screening and framing a child in a sexual costume, doing sexual acts, and behaving in a sexual manner. That's a very simple thing. There are no qualifiers to that. There's no yes, but it's there in front of you. You can see it.
Yeah, you could see it. Like you could see them with their legs spread wide open and
Mm.
whatnot. You could see them touching their crotch. I mean, a lot of the things that happen weren't even necessary to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a film. If they really wanted to make a film that they say they wanted to make, then they should have done it differently. They should have done it. They should have been less explicit. That's all I can say. Which means I question the motives in the first place of what they're saying, because it's a common thing to dress up some propaganda as something ironic, saying the other thing. Like, I mean, in some cases it's true, and like I said, I mentioned The Small Problem, this comedy series from TV. But in other cases, it's just, I think, an excuse to put a message out there you can't put out any other way. And in this case, it is normalizing minor attraction. It's making it acceptable, socially acceptable, so that it passes the dinner table test. And I don't want that. I don't want to live in a world where this sort of thing is acceptable.
Me neither. I do not want to, live in a world where this is. And okay, like let me share this last one by Vintage Miranda because she was just on a roll. She was just on a roll, and I just thought that she was brilliant. It's like I'm going to make a movie with 10 sex scenes, and when anybody thinks it's porn, I'll deny it. It's like she was just on a roll.
Oh, that's hilarious because there are actually films like that. I mean, I've seen them. I mean, there are many films which, I mean, Basic Instinct is probably the best known of these, but there's many, many others which are essentially, they're called erotic thrillers or erotic dramas, and they are essentially porn movies. And the way they get out of it not being a porn movie is they put in a very, very half-baked kind of plot, and they have non-sexual scenes in it. I mean, there's a historical of drama called Caligula, which is another one. It's like set in the Roman times, and I watched it actually. A friend of mine gave me a DVD of it, and it's a porn movie. It just shows orgies, continuous orgy scenes. In between, you have like non-sexual scenes, so they can actually market it and put it in cinemas as a non-porn movie. But it is a porn movie. It's just red tape. It's just like a loophole. It's a legal loophole, and that's what they're doing. It's like, I don't know if you had the wet T-shirt competitions in America. We had them in Britain because there was a law passed that to ban strip teasing. In other words, women couldn't perform in certain locations without a special license. They had to be clothed at all times. So what they did was they just got the girls to put on a very, very thin T-shirt and soak it with water so it became transparent. So you could see everything through it. So you could see her breasts and nipples and things like that. And they'd say, "Well, look, she's dressed," and all the guys were sort of staring like that. And so it's just, to me, that's just a kind of like, what's the word? It's just like, it's red tape. It's finding a red tape solution, which I think is very dishonest.
Yeah, I mean, we have that in America too, wet t-shirt contest. But for me, it's like, well, I would, well, there's no way I'll be interested in a wet t-shirt contest. And not only that, but even with TV shows, I don't really like anything that's too pornographic. Like sometimes, like with the Sci-Fi Channel, they would have like a TV series that would be like too pornographic for my taste. I mean, like like you don't see anything, but it's like it's like if there are too many scenes where people are having an orgy, and there's like fewer sex scenes in like Penny Dreadful, and Penny Dreadful is like an HBO series, but if there's like fewer sex scenes than Penny Dreadful, then sci-fi, I would rather just not watch the sci-fi.
Yeah, it's, oh, those, I love Bill Hicks, the comedian. I don't know if you've ever heard him or seen his videos. I mean, he's dead now, sadly. He died at a young age, but he's a brilliant comedian from the States. And he was making jokes about about these sort of erotic dramas, saying, "Oh my God, I just saw this woman; she was naked." And he's like, "Oh my God, I saved up my pocket money to go and watch this movie. I lied about my age." And he says, "Guys, there are videos you can rent where it's just nothing but that. And it's true. It's like, if you want to see erotic material, don't stop kidding yourself. Stop just going along and saying, 'Oh yes, I was very impressed by this erotic drama. The plot, the plot and storyline were amazing.'" You know? And they're sitting there in front of the TV, and they've got the remote control, and they're just forward winding through all the bits, and they get to a sex scene. Stop the play. You get come out of it. Forward winding through the bits without sex. Stop the play.
Yeah, but that was also my biggest fear with cuties. I mean, it's really erotic with these little girls, and it's kind of a lot like a pedophile could just take her remote control. Well, people don't watch TV anymore, but he could, like, scream the movie and just, fast forward, to the bits that he wants to see, skip the scenes that he doesn't want to see, skip, just keep skipping and see all of, cherry pick what he sees. I don't think he would ever help a pedophile at all, because he could always skip to the erotic dances and skip to their hands between their legs and whatnot.
What message is this giving out to people who might have minor attraction problems? I mean, the message it's giving out is that, there's nothing wrong with you. Society is changing to accept you for what you are, and just allowing you to do what you want. And this is like this guy Jake, the guy in the newspaper who got caught by an undercover copper. This guy was portrayed as some kind of, oh, he wasn't doing anything wrong, and he's persecuted by society. And this Cuties movie is going to say, yeah, this is really supportive to us and people like us. I mean, there are even organizations for minor attracted people. There have been since the 70s. We had the PI, the PIE here in Britain, which is P-word information exchange, which is run. I mean, they had a lawyer who was actually called Harriet Harman, who ended up being a solicitor. She was a solicitor for Pi, and she ended up on Tony Blair's front bench when he was prime minister. So she was a cabinet minister, which says an awful lot.
In America, I think we have like NABLA. NABLA, I forgot what the acronym stands for. I don't remember, but I think it's something Men Loves Young Boys.
Oh.
I don't remember what NABLA stands for.
The man. Yeah, Man Love Boy Association or something. Man Boy Love Association. Yeah.
Yeah, we have that in the U.S., and it's kind of like what would really happen is that it's like if a pedophile were to watch like Cuties, he's not gonna be a lot like like now that I see it, I'm gonna look away from Cuties. So, like, I'm not just going to I'm gonna change, I'm gonna reform. What's really gonna happen is he's going to fast forward, watch the scenes that he wants to jerk off to, and then skip any scenes that he doesn't want to hear.
Yeah. Hello, FTBHJHFR. Hello. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. the message that should be given out to minor attracted persons is the message I would like to give out to them is that there is something wrong with you. You're sick. You have a mental illness, and it's not normal, and you could do harm, even if you've not offended. Obviously, if this person has actually touched a child, then they should go to jail. They need to be in prison. It is a crime. If they've not touched a child yet, then they need to go to the doctors. They need to go to the doctors and tell the doctor, look, I'm not a man boy love person. I am ill. I've had these thoughts going through my head. I know there's something wrong with me. Could you please refer me to a psychiatrist? That is the message that should be given out. That's the healthy thing to do. That is a healthy way for society to deal with this sort of thing. Not try and sympathize, not try and normalize, not try to get the public to build up a tolerance to this kind of thing. No, this is really worrying. I mean, you get more and more of this. I mean, this is all part of this drive towards changing the Overton window, which the communists in universities and other places have been doing for generations now. And I think this is all a part of it. And the result is that we people are going to turn into different kinds of people that will be easier to control. And that's my concern.
And there's something else I wanted to mention. I'm following a girl on Twitter called like Ashley Tina. I don't want to misquote her, but I think this is what she said, that there is a TV show or like she was describing an episode where there was a pedophile in it, and the episode made a pedophile out to be a martyr. Like I forgot what she said. But she said something along the lines of like there was a pedophile in a sitcom on a show, and so like he had all of these urges, and then he kills himself at the end of the episode because he had these urges, but he didn't want to hurt anybody. So the pedophile. Oh, I shouldn't have said it. The minor attracted person, killed himself. But it's kind of a lot like she was saying that, they turned this, map into like a martyr. And it's like they're not martyrs.
Yeah, I'm not seeing this program, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they did make a program which tried to portray maps as martyrs. Like, well, that news story about Jacob, the guy caught by the undercover cop. That's a story of martyrdom. And it's wrong. I mean, I think what a lot of the promoters of this kind of thing are doing, they are incorrectly drawing a parallel with the acceptance of homosexuality in society, and they're saying, look, it's like being gay. In the old days, it was like something disgusting you never talked about, and you had to be secretive about it. And then slowly but surely, it became more acceptable, and now anyone can walk around saying they're gay, and that's absolutely fine. And that's great. And we've moved forward, we've become more progressive, and the P word, the map, is exactly the same. The P words used to be secretive, and they used to, do secret things and file share their perverted videos and things like that. But society's changing, so we become more acceptable and things like that. But Rin, it's a completely different situation. The difference with homosexuality is that, firstly, it does seem to be something that's inbuilt in people, and there've always been people who are homosexual. There's also a sliding scale of bisexuality, which covers about 40-50% of the population, and then there's the people who are completely straight, who like me, who are completely straight. But the difference here is, firstly, it is something that seems to be genetic. It's something within us that's part of our nature. Secondly, it's adults. This is all about adults. This isn't about children. This is about the freedom to do what you want with another adult. The difference, what people want to do, what two adults choose to do, is very different to what an adult wants to do to a child. The illegal terms and moral terms, these are continents apart, these two issues. So any attempt to try and conflate the acceptance of homosexuality with the acceptance of minor attraction is it's distorting the issue in a very dangerous way. And I really get worried whenever I see people trying to use that argument.
Yeah, I do see that the maps or the Nambla people, they try to, they try to squeeze their way into the LGBT community, but the difference is there's a difference between what two grown adults do with each other. Like if two grown consenting adults do with each other, it's like it's none of your business. But when you have an adult with a child, there's like a power dynamic there. For example, I mean, a teacher could actually, like, do you want teachers to have the ability to lower grades for students that refuse to, do that, it's like there are teachers that do grope on their students and, do all sorts of things to their students. And it's like, and they want, sexual favors. And it's like, or the teacher would promise an A. Like, do you want an A in school? Do you want me to give you a perfect score? And, it's like, well, you would have to sleep with me and I'll give you a perfect score. There's a power play there because, the adults has the ability to take advantage of the child.
Yeah, and it's quite horrible to realize that a lot of the famous people that you see in the world of the music industry and the movie industry have been through that same process. They essentially are put in a situation. I mean, Corey Goode and Corey Feldman and Elijah Wood have talked about this, where you're in the same situation. You get parts in movies, and your profile rises within Hollywood if you do sexual favors for people who have the ability to make or break your career. That's horrific. I mean, it's horrible. Even just talking about it. I mean, I talked before about my own abuse when I was a child. I was in a situation where I was abused, not by a family member, but by someone who came into the family. But I mean, I had people like teachers at school and that saying things to me, talking about puberty and things like that, and saying to me, like when I was about 11 or 12 years old, that in a couple of years this would happen to me and that would happen to me, and my body would change and my thoughts and feelings would change. And they got quite graphic at one point, and I got really disturbed by it all. I felt really embarrassed, and it was just and that essentially is what's been done to Natalie Portman when she was 13, wasn't it? Only with her, it was like on the bloody radio.
Yeah, I mean, and like I've also talked about my sexual abuse, but it's like it's not from my, immediate family. Like, nobody. It wasn't my mom. My dad was never even around. Like, I practically never seen my dad before. But like somebody that's like a friend of the family used to do sexual acts on me when I was still a child. It's still like molestation, but it's a person that's I barely seen.
Yeah, and this sort of thing is, it's horrible that this happens in the first place to any child, and it's even more horrible when the society you live in doesn't take it seriously and even seems to take an unironic almost approval of it. I mean, that's horrible. I mean, obviously, like, you're an adult now. I mean, but just imagine you're a little kid and you see something like that. I mean, I don't know what the certificate is of Cuties, but imagine you're a small child and you see that. What does it make you think? What do little kids of that age group think when they see their peers, children of the same age, behaving like that?
Well, the sad thing is, there is a thing called the chameleon effect. I don't know if you've heard of it, but kids tend to mimic what they see.
Yes. Yes, in fact, I've noticed it with my own daughter. Obviously, it wasn't not in this case that I never exposed her to anything like this, and I never would. But she would act in a certain way, similarly to what her other kids. There was sort of like fashion crazes at schools, and from quite a young age, she was mimicking the other children in certain ways. Yeah.
Oh man, I tried to go and share an article, but there's this like big thing in the way. I guess I could click accept all cookies and get rid of the cookies later.
It might do the trick. It might do the trick. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to share things that talks about the chameleon effect. Let's see, screen share. And I had to go do it. Like I have like 30 or like 40 tabs open, so it's gonna take a. Oh, here it is. I see it.
No problem, no rush.
Okay, I found it. The chameleon effect as social glue evidence for the evolutionary significance of non-conscious mimicry. The chameleon effect refers to the tendency to adopt the posture, gestures, and mannerisms of interaction partners. This type of mimicry occurs outside of conscious awareness and without any intent to mimic or imitate. Empirical evidence suggests a bidirectional relationship between non-conscious mimicry on the one hand and liking reports and affiliation on the other. That is, non-conscious mimicry creates a affiliation, and affiliation can be expressed through non-conscious mimicry. We argue that mimicry um, played an important role in a human evolution. Initially, mimicry may have had a survival value by helping humans communicate. Um, we propose that the purpose of mimicry has not evolved to serve a social function. Non-conscious behavioral mimicry increases affiliation, which serves to foster relationships with others. We review current research and let's this proposed framework and suggest future areas of research.
Yeah, that's that's to be expected actually, because humans we are social creatures, and we see this kind of behavior in other social animals. Dogs, for example. I've noticed this with dogs. That one, if there's, I know these two dogs, right? They live in the same house. One of them's got a bad foot, and sometimes he'll just like sit down and refuse to move. And he lives with this other dog, and there's nothing wrong with her foot, but she will do the same as he does. Like sometimes he'll put, like, if someone wants to take him out on a walk, he'll sometimes pull back like he doesn't want to go because his foot's hurting. And then when he does that, she'll do the same thing. Even though there's nothing wrong with her, she will copy his behavior. And you see this with other creatures that live in groups. And of course, why should humans be any different? And it is like a kind of social bonding thing. It's a herding instinct. And indeed, that can serve some good functions. For example, if you're part of a tribe, you can have certain mannerisms which will other tribe members can understand that you are like that. You see that with certain groups of people, like in certain jobs, certain behaviors and certain types of language occur. I mean, there's certain terminology and certain ways of speaking that I used when I was a porter at my hospital, because I was part of a large group of professionals, that I wouldn't use outside the hospital because I was with a different group of people, a different tribe, if you like. And that serves a good purpose, but it can serve a very, very sinister purpose if it is weaponized to change human behavior in pathological ways. Because if someone understands the things that these people that you just quoted, these are psychologists you just quoted, the government and other people in authority in the movie industry and education, they employ top psychologists to advise them. So essentially, this is creating a psychological warfare tool for controlling people or changing human society in ways that they want it to, building it in their image. And in this case, we're looking at a very, very nasty image, which they want people to be. And we as people, there's sometimes when you have to resist that mimicry. You have to fight back and say, I'm not going to go along with that mimicry. And be aware of your own subconscious mimicries and stop them when they occur. If you're being led into this rather unpleasant situation. So in that case, maybe create a new kind of mimicry, a new kind of behavior that other people can mimic, which is healthy, which I hope you and I are doing on this particular program. I hope people watching it will see this and mimic us.
Yeah, hopefully people will see. That's the reason why, like, instead of going like chatting with Ben Porter, which nobody's going to click on the title chatting with Ben Porter, I just put, Centricide against Netflix Cuties, because, like, if I put like a different title and this time I'm going to try to add in tags, and if I add in tags, more people will see it. And, you are more than welcome to more than welcome to download the live stream and upload it on your own channel.
Thanks, Rit. I will. The YouTube has a problem though with processing live streams into recordings, which is a bit annoying. But hopefully, when it is done, yeah, I can do that. Definitely, I did it with the last one where we discussed this cuties thing, so it can be a part two kind of thing. But yeah, getting a good title is very important. And I've never heard the word Centricide until you just told me about it. But I do like it because I mean, Molyneux made this point when he was talking about his banning. You know, they want to scoop out the center where people are reasonable and people are looking at the rights and wrongs in a non-partisan way, and just leave the extremes to fight amongst themselves. And that seems to be the way social media is at the moment.
Well, the reason why I picked Centricide is like not only was there a popular Centricide series, but I did cover this in the very beginning. But I'll screen share again. Let me open it up on. I hate to have so many tabs open, but here we go. Cuties is extraordinary Netflix debut that became the target of right-wing campaign, and it's like next to the bottom. Hold on,
Yeah.
next to the bottom where he says that is.
I'm interested. The title is. I'll comment on the title when you've done that because I want to say something about that.
Before, okay. No. Cuties is a film of the censor, and it's aesthetically of the censor, and that's the reason why it's like Centricide time, Dan. You know, it's like it's saying that Cuties is a film of the censor. It's calling it a centrist film. You know, it's like, but you know, it's like it's bombarded. It almost had 2 million downvotes, though.
It's not a centrist film. The desire to change human behavior at the level of sexuality is a very left-wing thing. Also, it says here, Cuties, the extraordinary Netflix debut. Listen to this, isn't this propaganda? An extraordinary Netflix debut. They describe the film as extraordinary. So that's immediately framing the whole issue and giving the viewer a prejudicial opinion of the movie. It's an extraordinary film that became the target. It's all very aggressive, isn't it? The target of a right-wing campaign. So if you oppose this sort of thing, you are by very definition right-wing. And of course, right wing sometimes conjures up images of like people with baseball bats, you know, and the Ku Klux Klan and things like that. So all that is covered by the term right wing. So anyone looking at that title is going to think, oh, it's an extraordinary film and nasty right wing people are opposing it.
Well,
It must be a good film then, you know?
it's yellow journalism. It's yellow
Yeah.
journalism. That title, it's not only clickbait, but it's also poisoning the whale. You know, it committed the poisoning the whale fallacy.
Yes, totally and utterly. And the media does this all the time. It's continuously doing this. I mean, I could give you numerous other examples of articles like that, and the titles especially, you know, which draw people in. The titles are important. We were just talking about good titles, and for you, you know, you can use like proper titles for a positive way to get attention to the video. Others use title to give the viewer so the viewer immediately starts reading the title with a preconceived opinion of it. And you know what it's like when you're reading lots of things. Very often people just read the title and they skim read the rest of it, and they don't really get a proper scope on what it's about. So they may just pick up a few words here and there. And indeed, the psychologists who work for the media, they tell you exactly what words to use and where to use them so that a speed reader will sort of pick them up. And so by the time they finish reading the article, they're going to have a completely different opinion on the film than they would have if they looked at both sides of the story or they'd read an objective review.
I mean, for me, well, I don't really read all that many articles anyway. I would rather watch a video because, you know, like why believe what is read when you could watch, you know, like live leagues or, you know, like, you know, it's like what's it still great at still great, like Ian Smiles Chunk and Andy Neo. They both have clips of the violence that's going on in America. It's like, I mean, whether you like Ian Malchunk or not, or Andy No or not, you know, at least they're doing something that nobody else is doing, and that is it's getting all of these screen recordings of all the violence that's going on.
That's true. I mean, we live in a very, very interesting time because the social media and the internet allows people to express themselves and communicate in a way they haven't been able to probably, I mean, the only thing that compares with this is the invention of the printing press in terms of information freedom that it gives us. So, 20 or 30 years ago, we couldn't do what we're doing now. We couldn't make a video like we're doing now and distribute it to as many people as we could. This means that people have a chance now of getting the real story, or getting their own version of the story, so people can make their own minds up in a way they never could before, which is wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. This is why so many people are being banned, because the authorities who want to maintain the narrative are trying to purify this new form of expression of dissenters. But it gives a responsibility for people like us to do these kinds of things that we're doing now, and put another point of view across to prevent people reading that thing about extraordinary debuts and right-wing campaigns and just coming to the wrong conclusion completely. Maybe you can go to see the film with a prejudicial attitude to it. In other words, this is the director telling you it's a chicken when it's really a duck. So I think we're doing a good job, Bren. We're doing something that's important and necessary.
I mean, I do think that this is going to backfire, because if they turn pedophilia into a left versus rights issue, because I haven't covered this yet, but I'll say this live. I already said this multiple times on Twitter, but I haven't said it live yet. But when I'm looking at news media outlets, only right-wing news media outlets are condemning it,
Yeah.
like Cuties. Like, I've seen it being condemned by pretty much all the right-wing outlets, like Breitbart, the Daily Caller, the Fox News. So each and every single right-wing outlet called out, Cuties for being the gross, disgusting film that it is. But it's like, with the left-wing outlets, pretty much all of them, defended the Cuties and called it a
Yeah.
must-see.
What, what,
I was even surprised by the Independents. Like, I thought Independent was a good one, and I, normally read the articles from the Independent because I viewed it as a trustworthy, reliable source. But even the Independents was defending Cuties, and I feel disappointed in them.
Yeah, I mean, the Independent doesn't live up to its name. It really, really doesn't. But, well, yeah, you're right about the right. The Conservatives have really been, they've been a stalwart defence against this sort of thing, which is really great. What you see on the left is it's split. I mean, the big time left wing outlets. I mean, I've not read what the Guardian says about it, but I can probably guess, and many others. They're all in favour of this. On the grassroots level, you see a different story. I mean, there seems to be a split in the grassroots social media left wing users. I mean, we've seen Miss Miranda, and she's taken a stalwart campaign, I think, for justice and reason in this sort of thing, as has Tulsi Gabbard. So that's really good. So credit to those people. And I think it's up to those people, obviously, are doing a very brave thing, because we both know how leftists can, how the violence and aggression which they respond to when they encounter any kind of back talk. So well done them.
Yeah, I mean, I've also noticed a split in the left, like on Reddit, pretty much nearly all the left, at least in political compass means, pretty much all the left condemned the Cuties.
That's
Well,
good.
at least in the specific subreddit called political compass memes, pretty much in like 100% of left the left condemned Cuties. But on Twitter, it's like a different story. On Twitter, you see people using all of this whataboutisms, like, what about Trump? What about beauty pageants? What about this? What about that?
Yeah. Well, Twitter is something of a Politburo, isn't it? I mean, it seems to be the gathering place of all these kind of radical pinkos everywhere. But I mean, I think the true story can be found on Rotten Tomatoes. It's all very clear on Rotten Tomatoes. I think this is the most revealing thing. Official critics love it. The audience score is 11%. Now, this means the audience hate it. There's a massive gap here in approval between the official critics and between the general grassroots viewing public. Now, those 11% who liked it, obviously the 89% didn't. Those 89% of people are going to consist of all kinds: Democrats, Republicans, etc., etc. So we can take I think we can take hope from that, Rin, and also the downvotes on the trailer. What you find is with the authorities and within the officialdom is that things change. Mostly, you find that there is a kind of grassroots change which undermines the structure of officialdom long before that structure of officialdom actually collapses. And very often, the structure of officialdom will look completely and actually dominant and hegemonic the very moment before its foundations cave in by the grassroots disapproval. So you never know. You never know when that cave-in moment could come. But I think when I look at this, I take great hope from it. So I think Cuties might actually serve one good purpose, and that is it's a lesson. It's a lesson for everybody in how arrogant and how overstretching these powers of cultural Marxism have become, to the point where they're making blunders. They're actually everything they're doing is backfiring because it's educating the public against them. So that's great, Lynn. This is good news. I feel encouraged by this.
I don't know how I make of it because I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know, but I do think that this is backfiring against them. This is definitely backfiring against them, but I don't know which direction the society is going because it's like again, at least on Twitter, so many on the left are defending cuties. Of course, many on the left condemn that. There are people like hello, I am actually very liberal and that I hate cuties, and there are people like I'm a communist and I hate cuties, and like there are people like again on Reddit, pretty much 100% of people on the left were against cuties. But then it's like you see the people who are very tribalistic and are doing, like playing politics, being political hacks. They know like damn well that if, right wingers like love cuties and, if like let's just say Donald Trump came out and says I love cuties and like the Trump family loved it, then it's like they would probably change their opinions to like, oh, I hate it now.
Oh, right. I can't imagine Trump doing that. I mean, if he did, I'd be horrified and disgusted if he ever did. Very disappointed in him. But yeah, I mean, it does seem like Reddit is pretty based, generally, I found. It's kind of the opposite of Twitter in that respect. So it doesn't surprise me that Reddit attracts, if it attracts communists and leftists, then it attracts the kind of the more sensible and rational and sort of moral kind, which do exist. And so I'm not surprised that Reddit is taking a very, very different position from Twitter. I don't know. Like I said, I think it's backfiring on them, but obviously I don't know the future, and I don't know what's going to happen. I think it'll be encouraging, and if we maybe in a month's time we look at the long-term effect this has had on Netflix's popularity and profit, and if we find that it's actually declined and it's actually done the company a lot of damage, I think then we will know that it's had a good effect. It's like the Gillette razors, when we didn't know when it first came out. Obviously, they had this ridiculous, disgusting, misandrist advert, and it had loads and loads of downvotes. Like it was 95% plus downvotes, but they stuck with it. They doubled down, and then eventually their revenue dropped. People stopped buying Gillette razors because this company was alienating its core audience, its core customer base. So hopefully Netflix will do the same, and then we will know. I mean, really, money talks in this game, and they need bums on seats, and they need credit card numbers, and they need people paying to watch their products. And if Cuties really has a big effect, then people will switch to Amazon Prime, and hopefully that'll be the end of it. And then hopefully they'll drop Cuties. You never know. I mean, Netflix have dropped other films before for I say less reputable reasons. Maybe they'll do the right thing and get rid of Cuties.
I mean, it's like, like I, I hope that this happens to Netflix. Like, I really do hope that they tank because I mean, you could kind of look at what's the big mouth with the giant talking vagina and the monster encouraging, like 11-year-old girls to play with their private parts. They already have like a pedophilic TV series. So yeah, Big Mouth is a pedophile TV series. You know, Cuties is going even further with the whole pedophilia bit. I do think if they keep going down this road, that they are going to, because they even alienated, people on the left. Like Sean spoke out, um, Vintage Miranda spoke out. I mean, there are people on the left. And on Reddit, like it was like overwhelmingly, like 100%, like of people on the left, at least in political compass memes and in our Shrek, it was like 100% of people on the left condemning Netflix.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad that that's happening on Reddit. I mean, it's really, really great. And I mean, I don't know about this TV series you just mentioned, but I mean, there shouldn't be TV series like that for children. I mean, it's as we talked about this before about children's exposure to sex, and it's something that should be handled very carefully at the right age. And really, generally, it should be the work of the family. I mean, or even the individual. I mean, I had sex education when I was a child, but I didn't have it until I was already past. I was already in puberty by the time I had sex education. Indeed, the girls were already quite advanced because girls always mature quicker than boys. And they tell you about they by the time they said things like masturbation, the response from most of the kids was, "Oh, that's what it's called." Because it was something they worked out for themselves. It's something you don't need, and so I think it's wrong for a start. And secondly, it's not necessary to teach a child these things because they discover it for themselves when they become sexually mature. They discover these things for themselves, and any kind of like when it's coming from the outside at you, it's just embarrassing. It's what this teacher. I told you about this teacher who was talking to me in a sexual way when I was just before puberty. I didn't want that. I just felt so uncomfortable, and he was telling me about these things, so uncomfortable. And now there's kids actually having lessons in primary school, what you would call like kindergarten or first grade, and they're telling children about adult human sexual relationships, which is wrong.
Well, to me, it all depends on how it's done because, kids need to know about pedophilia because kids need to say something. How is a kid supposed to say, hey, how is a kid supposed to tell somebody I've been touched the wrong way if they don't have a word for it? Like because pedophiles, they'll go after, 6-year olds, 7-year olds, 8-year olds, 9-year olds. A kid needs to have a way to say, this is what happens to me, so it could stop.
Yeah, well, firstly, if they have a healthy, loving relationship with their parents, the problem will solve itself because they'll be able to communicate with their parents and talk about these things with parents themselves. If they don't, then they obviously need another supportive adult in their life who will treat them and talk about these things sensitively and without being too graphic and to the point where it actually, in essentially, strips them of their whole childhood. I mean, the thing about kids is like when it comes to inappropriate touching, children know it instinctively. It's almost like they understand immediately if something's wrong. A lot of people who've been abused as children say this. They say, "I know it was wrong. I know immediately it was wrong." I mean, my parents, when I was abused, my parents tried to justify it. I was physically abused, not sexually abused, but I was physically abused. My parents, who like, at the age I was 8 years old, when you're that young, your mum and dad are like God. You don't you don't question your mum and dad. But when they told me that they tried to justify what was done to me, I said, no, that's not true. It's wrong. I knew instinctively that what was done to me was wrong. And I think that if a child with that natural instinct, together with a good way of communicating and a loving relationship with their parents, this was denied to me. This ability to communicate, this ability to understand what was wrong and right, this was denied to me when I was a child. But if that's not denied to you, then you immediately you can talk to your parents about it. The parents can take action, and that is what I hope will happen. I hope that there'll be more as time goes on. Families will become more and more closer, and fathers who split up with the mother will stay in touch with the child, which is what happened to me with my child, because that's very important. I think I'm very sorry your dad your father didn't have anything to do with you, and I think that's horrible. I mean, I'd never do that to my daughter, so that's what I hope will happen in the future.
Yeah, my dad chose not to be a part of my life. Like he moved to another state, like he moved to lived in Virginia to be with his girlfriend.
That is unthinkable. I mean, I've got one child, and I couldn't bear to do that. I really couldn't. I don't understand men who become fathers and then do that. And I know they do. I mean, one of the porters at my hospital had a little kid, and he wanted nothing to do with her. And it's like, how can you be like that? How can you even think that? It's your own child. It's your flesh and blood. It's you. You are a father. You've got to look after your child. Oh, I'm sorry, Rin. I really am. That happened. I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him a few times. Like he did, he was around more when I was, like first grade, like in the first grade, second grade. Then he just left. Then he came back a little bit when in my teenage years. Then he like left permanently.
Oh dear. I split up from my daughter's mother when she was 11 months old. She was still a little baby. But since that happened, barely a week has gone by in the last 24 years when I have not had some contact with my daughter. At one point, I mean, I lived with her, and I even lived with her and her mother as two single parents for a number of years since then. So it's a shame because like what I'm very very glad I did that. And your own dad, I don't know how he feels about it because once you take the decision and you leave your child and you don't have an active role in their life, you can't go back and amend that. That it's an opportunity that will never come again. I mean, if he's sitting there thinking, "Oh, I wish I'd spent more time with Rin when she was a little girl," I mean, he would say, "Oh, maybe I can make up for it." Well, you can't. She could obviously he can try to make amends, but he can't. He can't undo what he's done or his inaction or what he's not done. He can't undo what he's not done. And so I say to any guys out there who have kids, little young kids, stick with them. Stick with them no matter what. Try to come to an amicable arrangement with your ex-partner, the mother of the child. And if you can't, then you need to take legal action. But whatever you do, stay as a part of your child's life. The father is very important to the upbringing of the child. I mean, feminists regard fatherhood and fathers as at best unnecessary, but it's wrong. It's totally wrong. We now have like loads and loads of kids who've grown up without fathers, and it's really hurt them, and they're suffering. They always often say, "I wish my dad was around. I wish my dad was." Do you ever see a film called Parenthood? It's an old film made by Clint Howard.
No,
By
I
Ron
never,
Howard, sorry.
no, I never seen it.
It's a kind of comedy with Steve Martin, directed by Ron Howard. Um, and it's about Steve Martin plays this father who's got like kids, and the kids he has problems with his family, and his extended family have their problems. And it's a lovely film. It's a lovely kind of movie because it sort of ends happily, and it's all about that. It's about family bonds. Really, really good film.
Yeah, I don't really watch all that, much TV or movies lately because you don't know whom you're helping, it's kind of like people maybe watch Netflix for, Stranger Things
Mm.
or Penny Dreadful or whatnot, but it's like by, giving your money to Netflix, you're also helping them with cuties and Big Mouth, and whatever degenerate shit that they want to put out there, you know.
Yes, yes. I should add a little disclaimer there, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to go and watch Parenthood, watch it on Amazon Prime, get the DVD, get the VHS from an old secondhand shop. Whatever you do, don't watch it on Netflix, okay?
Yeah, I mean, I've just been playing more video games lately. I've been playing Neverwinter. It's like, I've also bought a few books.
Oh, good. Yeah, you're a keen reader, which is cool. Yeah. I'm quite curious to see what the K and the two Ks, Kevin and Christy, Kevin Logan, Christy Winters. I wonder what they're going to say about this. Because
Cuties?
yeah, I wonder what they're going to say. Because I know they're good friends with Mike Stutchbury, so I'm curious to see their response.
Yeah,
Because
because they talk about like rape culture, don't they? Don't they talk about rape culture and this is rape and that is rape? It's like, it's kind of like, well, I mean, you also would have to be morally consistent. Like, if you talked about rape culture and the male gaze, and, you would think that's just kind of like they would be like, hey, you know what? These little girls, they don't need to be that sexualized.
yeah, I mean, most of the time I don't. I mean, obviously, I always watch these two for what they have to say because I'm sort of morbidly interested in what they have to say. They're one of my favorite hate watchers, and you get Kevin Logan going, oh, the descent of manosphere, and you get Christy Winters going, oh, white people, white people, white people. Ugh. But every so often they come out with little pearls of wisdom, and so I'd be very impressed if Kevin and Christy actually do take the right line on this. Even maybe even have a debate with Mike Stoochbury or something. I mean, it's up to them. They could raise them. They could raise their image a little bit in my eyes if they do that. So, well, I'm curious. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, man, I forgot what I was gonna say. I was gonna make a response to like what you said about Kevin and Christy, and then I mean, I was gonna say something, then I just lost my train of thoughts.
Oh well, we're going for 2 hours, Vin, and maybe we should we call it a day? Because I don't know. I'm getting a bit tired. I don't know about you. Maybe you are too.
Okay, we could call it a day, and thank anybody for watching, and I'm gonna try adding text to the video. But yeah, thank anybody who watched for watching, and thank you Ben for coming, and
Thanks, guys.
um
Thanks you, Rin, and thank you, guys. Yeah. Please do share the video. I hope people find it interesting.
yeah, until next time.